We got shocking news about Damian Lillard's season maybe over. It was, of course, Jimmy Butler's revenge game heading back to Miami. I haven't seen the result of that game, so I'm sure he went off for an absolutely monster performance. We're going to talk about that and all of Tuesday's action. Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and the stuck-up Riverdale punks think they're too good for me. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Blue Sky at joshloyd.bsky.social, on Twitter at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Also, check out LockedOnDaily.com and sign up the best newsletter. If your favorite team is there and this is the best option for you to subscribe, well, it's going to be the best place right here, right now, for you to find Locked On Fantasy Basketball. That's the best version of Locked On Fantasy Basketball. It's the only one. And this is where you subscribe. You do it audio, you do it video, you do it on both. In fact, that's one of the best ways to give the old double ender, the double banger. Let's, should we go in? Should we talk? Should we do what we need to do here on Manatee Appreciation Day? Who's a big fan of a manatee? Is that one of your favorite sea mammals? Top three's favorite sea mammals? It's a tough list to crack. Drop your list below of favorite sea mammals in the comments. What we are going to talk about outside of manatees, we'll come back to manatees later. We're going to talk about a bit of news, and we'll start with the news on Damian Lillard. And I said that Glenn Rivers was giving confusing responses about Dame, and I said there's basing on what he is saying, there's no shot that he's going to play on Wednesday. Well, I didn't expect this to be the news that Damian Lillard is dealing with a deep vein thrombosis problem in his calf, and he's on blood thinners. Now, they said he's out indefinitely. For our purposes, there is no shot that he is making any dent in the fantasy basketball season. I don't see how that happens. Usually, when you're taking blood thinners, it's a 6-month sort of thing where you're taking them and then you're off them and you can't take contact for that time. Although weirdly, maybe it's a different, maybe they're not doing the oral ones, maybe they're doing the injection ones, I don't know, whatever it is. Weirdly, they said, and this I tried to find through this report from Eric Name and Sam Amick and Chris Haynes' reporting about this, because they're like, there's some hope, some optimism that it might not mean season over. All right. Sounds like bullshit, but what? But we've got to remember that when national media reporters are talking season over, they're expecting the Bucks to win a playoff round, maybe win 2 playoff rounds, maybe win 3 playoff rounds, maybe make the NBA Finals. They're not doing that. But their season over means that's June. For us, it's in 2.5 weeks. And we've seen some modern medicine miracles this season. Grade 2 ankle sprains return in a week. At least 10 days out, coming back in 5. Just unbelievable stuff. All season. I cannot see how Damian Lillard, on blood thinners, with a DVT, is going to be out there on the court in 2 weeks' time. It's just, there is, how could it possibly happen? It surely couldn't happen. So, drop him. Can't drop him. No, can't cut this. I almost said the most moved can't and cut into one word that would have probably got me cancelled. Another reminder. Default Yahoo leagues, get your act together. They are terrible leagues. Fix your default settings. They are bad. I am going to tell Dan Titus again. He's going to say, I can't do anything. And I'm going to tell him again, fix it. The settings are terrible. Can't cut this. Should not exist. Because then you have to wait. And I hate people being disadvantaged by systems waiting on somebody to flick a switch. If you want to drop Damian Lillard and you're here right now and you got that news and there's someone you want to add, why can't you do it? Why? Oh, because we want to protect in case someone drops that play. You know what happens if someone drops Damian Lillard at a time when it makes no sense? You lock their roster, you re-add Lillard to the roster, and we're done. That's a really simple fix to that. Versus the other thing, which is too restrictive on people trying to make comments. Like, so if someone right now wants to drop Steph Curry, or wants to drop Jason Tatum, or honestly wants to drop Nikola Jokic, they won't be able to because they're sitting on a can't cut list. Yet these guys might not play again this week. An insane setting that does, and if you want to argue the merits of it, that's okay. you're wrong, but that's okay. But you can't argue the fact that it should be still in place during fantasy playoffs. Just insane behavior to have a can't cut list. Anyway, so Dame shouldn't. I could be wrong on this. I did not think that Anthony Davis had any shot of returning. None. We'll see what Anthony Davis's value is in these couple of games that he returns and how actually good it is. But how does Dame return? The question now is going to be, who's the ad? Who's the must add? And I love these situations because we've just seen 3 games in a row where Dame's been out. And Ryan Rollins has started all 3. Kevin Porter Jr. played more minutes in one of those games, and none of them look like 12-team league guys. And like I said on the preview show earlier today, the guy that actually is playing well, again, unbelievably, I can't believe I'm going to sit here and tell you that, like, hey, maybe we look at Dylan Brooks, and now also maybe we look at Gary Trent, the most inconsistent players that are going. But if Trent moves from a 24-minute guy into a 33-minute guy, that's interesting to me. So, yeah, would I add Trent over Rollins and Porter? Probably yes. I don't think that Porter and Rollins should be anywhere close to considered must-roster players. We've got 3 games of data and absolutely nothing stands out there. Trent is closer to that, but it's Trent. The other Milwaukee news we've got is that Yanni has a foot issue now. Not a knee, not a calf, it's a foot. And he's questionable. Yuck. He was sort of flexing that at the end of that game against the Suns. If he is out, that will mean that Kyle Kuzma's value rises. It will mean that Kevin Porter will have to rise because somebody is going to have to take shots and he will do that. And if Giannis is out, I would look more to Kevin Porter to be an option. But they're obviously done. If Giannis is missing time, they're going to get smashed in every game. Tatum is doubtful. That's good news in that he hasn't been ruled out for a Domantas Sabonis like 10 days to return in 5. I would think that he probably doesn't play this week, but it's tough to know while Jokic is doubtful again. And like I've said many times, the Jokic thing has got nothing to do with the NBA being soft. It's got nothing to do with ruining your fantasy playoffs because of tanking. It's honestly, it's stiff shit. Like, it's just bad luck, man. Like, he is hurt at this time of year. It happens. This stuff happens, man. It's unfortunate. And what is going to be unbelievably hilarious to me, I don't know this will be true, that if you play Yahoo default playoffs, there is a massive shot that LaMelo Ball is going to have more value than Nikola Jokic. Imagine the amount of, what I think the great lesson from that is not that you need to trust players or not trust players or whatever, but if you come out with definitive statements in the preseason, you can't possibly draft LaMelo, mate, he's just not going to be there in your playoffs. He's not going to play. He never plays in the playoffs. He'll never be there. Those definitive statements, you're always going to get your ass bitten. And some of us, we might like that occasionally, but not in a fantasy sense. Let's talk about waiver wire trends, who's been added and who's been dropped over the last 48 hours, and can we make any sense of it? The most added player is Cameron Payne. Was he good today? Of course he wasn't. Is Cameron Payne a good player? Absolutely not. The reason you added Cameron Payne is the Knicks were the only team on a back-to-back. The starting point guard was out, and he was going to get 30 minutes, and he did. He got 29 and a half minutes or whatever it was saying. He stunk, but you added to get 60 minutes in 2 nights, and hopefully it works out. The first one didn't. The second one might. And if you can, again, depending on how your ads play out for the week, you try to hold. Scottie Pippen. Another start for him today with Morant just missing off the face of the earth. Cool, that's a solid ad. Justin Edwards. He is risky. All Sixers are risky, and they have a couple of unbelievable tank games coming up. But I get it. Kai Jones, I do think just should be added. Pig Williams. Chet Holmgren returned today. We'll see what Jalen does. Bronco's still out. I get it, but I'm not that into it. But I do like Santi Aldama as an ad. I think that's a really solid one. At this time in the year, the most dropped players, number 1 is Juice McBride. He was out today. I think he's out tomorrow, but I don't know that. Makes complete sense. Keyshawn George is out tomorrow. No worries. Go for it. Orlando Robinson. Well, Jakob Poeltl is out again tomorrow as the Raptors continue the alternate rest scenario. And Colin Castleton is not being re-signed on a 10-day contract. So their center depth currently is Orlando Robinson and John Mobo because Chris Boucher is dead as well. So I would have tried to hold on to Robbo, but I also get that you didn't. Dalton Connect's out of the rotation. See you later, my guy. And then Tristan Vukcevic, who, outside of that one absolute dud, I think has been okay. The risk is there, though. There's just a huge risk that he just gets zeros or plays 2 minutes. But I do think that at least for Wednesday's game, Thursdays I'm a little bit iffier about it. I think it'll be okay. I don't think I would have necessarily gone the drop there. And then Daquan Jeffries, that's an easy drop call. We're all pretty clear on that. Today's episode is brought to you by the Game Time app. Sports events, we love them. We love going to them, getting there in person, the atmosphere, the smells. Not the bad ones, just the good ones. We love it all. At an arena, at a ballpark, at a rink, whatever it is you're going to, at a field. Game Time can help you get those picks. Game Time's new feature, Game Time Picks, filters out the fluff and shows you only the best deals on the great seats. You don't have to waste your time scrolling through thousands of tickets. You can check that app and see all the amazing deals on all the big matchups that are coming up. Playoff games, sure. They'll be there. Opening day in Major League Baseball, you'll see that there as well. Hockey playoffs, yeah. March Madness tickets might be there. Who knows? Go and check it out. And with super deals, they'll highlight even the better deals to get you the bang for your buck as well. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create the account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It is game time. Shall we talk games? First one, the San Antonio Spurs up against the Detroit Pistons. Spurs, no change to their starting group. And I'll be honest with you, Australian fast bowling legend Mitch Johnson's done a pretty good job most of the season. I have no idea what he's doing at the moment. None whatsoever, really. I don't get why Jeremy Sohan was rotting on the bench. And they went, let's make the change. You're starting. He has 73 minutes across 2 games, which is an exaggeration, but actually it's not. I think it's bang on the amount of minutes he played in 2 games. All right, he's a starting center now. The minutes are good. Let's rock and roll. And then he's back on the bench. Biombo can play 25 while he gets 15 minutes and scores 2 points. I don't get it. What are we trying to do? I know that you're up against Jalen Duren. He's a bigger center. You know what doesn't matter? Whether you win this game. It just doesn't. It doesn't. And Bismack Biombo's a million years old and can't move. I don't get it. But what I do get is that we drop Jeremy Sohan.
Get that garbage out of here.
The other thing is, people were ready to pitchfork Devin Vassell about 4 weeks ago, and now he is the only guy surviving value in San Antonio. 26 points with 6 threes. Yes. Before you get totally excited for Vassell next season, that Wemby's out, Fox is out, whatever their lottery pick isn't here. So don't overreact to this. I like Vassell, but this is not representative of anything he's going to do. Steph Castle was whatever, 19, 2 and 4, bad from the line, okay from the field. He still remains quite poor from a fantasy perspective. And when we did all the preseason videos and we look at past records of rookies and where they fit, on average, I think it's 3 top 100 rookies you get, maybe 1 top 50 rookie, 6 top 125 rookies is what the average is. And this was considered a terrible draft class. We said that. We went back through some of the other bad ones. Maybe you get 1 to 2 top 100 guys. We're not going to have a single top 100 player this season for rookies. We may not have a single top 125 player in category leagues or even points leagues this season, although the points leagues ones we might. Category leagues, we're not having a top 125 player this season, I'm pretty sure, which is, a horrid result from a draft class. Keldon Johnson's turned back to Keldon Johnson, 10, 5, and 3, poor shooting, bad defensive numbers. You just can't roster that shit. While Blakey Wesley had 5 points with a steal, and people are still rostering Mamakelishvili. Is it because they like saying his name? I doubt it, but it is fun to say. 11 points with 3 threes. He had that one game that everyone frothed, and nothing else has come of it. Julian Champagny had 4 points only, but he did have 2 steals. It's just impossible to rely upon these players at the moment. The only guy I'm relying upon is Vassell. You could say Castle, but again, his overall fantasy game is pretty bad. Should we talk Detroit Pistons? We probably should. Let's talk Detroit Pistons. The Pistons, they had both Cade Cunningham and Tim Hardaway Jr. questionable for this game. And I said, how is Tim playing? He was in a walking boot. They said he's going to be out for some time. But it was actually Hardaway that played and Cade that didn't. And I'll be honest, I completely got that wrong. I had no idea that would be the case. So Tim returned. Beasley went to the bench. By the way, I've said this for a while. You drop Malik Beasley. You don't roster him.
Get that garbage out of here.
There's absolutely no point in holding on to a bloke who's not even a top 150 player over the last 2 weeks, who relies upon threes and is sort of middle of the pack minutes at the moment. Just a waste. Get rid of him. Beasley had 13 points with 2 threes. Hardaway had 12 points in 25 minutes. The return of Timmy meant that rugged Ronnie Holland didn't play as much. He had 8 points in 18 minutes. Nice flash in the last game, but nothing exciting. And then Asar Thompson was pretty good. 60% shooting, 14, 6, and 3 with 2 steals. We love that. The problem here is this team, from Wednesday through to Tuesday next week, play 2 games. So you know what that means? You cannot afford to hold these fringe players. I don't care how good you think Asar Thompson's going to be. You can't hold him in that for that time. You can't. It's useless. You're wasting your time. Could you get excited that Marcus Sasser dropped 27 points? Absolutely not, for numerous reasons. A, he's not a rotation player most nights. B, he shot 75% to get to 27 points with very little else. And what are we up to? C, they play twice in the next week. Don't fall for it. This would be the ultimate chase that will lose you a matchup for wasting a move on a player that's not going to do enough. I cannot be more stressful on this. Stressful? I cannot be more, what's the word I'm looking for? Harsh? No, harsh is not the right word. There's a word. I'm sure you know the word. Anyway, I think you get the point. I'm being direct with it. Don't add him. Wasting your time. Toby Harris had 15 and 8. He had 3 steals and a block. That's a pretty good all-round game. While Jalen Duren struggled a little bit, but 14, 4, and 7. Is Duren a hold for 2 games in 7 nights? Probably yes. Is Dennis Schroeder? Of course not. 7, 2, and 6 for him in 23 minutes. Hardaway's not. Beasley's not. Thompson's not. Sasser's not. The only one that would hold out of this group is Cade if he bloody plays. And probably Tobias Harris. But honestly, that's a little iffy as well. I'm not sure about that one. I probably would hold Toby, but it is a little iffy. Let's talk about the second game of the day. The Orlando Magic. They beat the Charlotte Hornets 111-104. I said I needed a little bit of a track record for Mr. Black before I get excited. I'm not excited, but he's playing well. That's, I think, 4 good ones in a row. 20 points, but most importantly, 18 shots. 5 rebounds. He didn't have an assist, but he had a steal and 2 blocks, and he came off the bench behind Corey Joseph playing 30 minutes. Now, this could get just completely kiboshed if Cole Anthony returns. And he still remains Anthony Black, and he still remains an iffy shooter with an iffy track record. I don't think that I would bite the bullet, especially after they just played the back-to-back and now have 2 games in the next 5 nights. But it's looking better. Wendell Carter Jr. again shows you that he's only a schedule guy. 5 and 11, 2 blocks, not good enough to hold. Why is Kentavious Caldwell-Pope 43% rostered? 43% of you got no idea, I'm guessing. 3 points for him in 21 minutes. Hey, shout out to you if you're watching this show and you've got Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and your league's still going. And you're in a 12-10 league. Because maybe you do know what you're doing. Maybe the children are out of touch. Franz Wagner had 26, 8, and 4, and Parlour had 32, 7, and 6. We're going to have some uncomfortable conversations about what the hell we do with Parlour in leagues next season. Points leagues, he's going top 20, I think, pretty comfortably. Category leagues, there'll be the people who scream from the top of the mountains that he's unrosterable. Actually, you can't take him too many deficits in his game. There'll be those people. Then there'll be the people who I think, are more in line with my thinking, who might be like, that's it might be 3rd round guy. Might be. We'll find out. Think it will be. Gaz Harris with the old 29 minutes from the top rope. He had 2 threes with 5 assists and 2 steals. I don't want to feel good about trusting him. We actually got some minutes out of the big fella, Goga Badadze. The dart played while John Isaac got a big 0. He has been, underreported John Isaac, terrible for the last 4 months, I think. Useless. Goga's minutes are intriguing. We're not adding him, but it's intriguing to see that playing time bump up there for the dart. We'll go across to the Charlotte side of this game, who kept this game pretty close. And I mentioned about LaMelo Ball. And again, those very definitive proclamations that people often make about players that just almost never pan out for you. Even if I make a definitive proclamation, which I try not to. Shout out to Marcus Sasser from 5 minutes ago. But I try not to. It's like there's stuff you just don't know. And that's part of the way that I try to approach this show. Is you don't know. You don't know whether LaMelo Ball is going to get hurt in the future. You don't know if the team is going to be good or bad. I can point out millions of examples of these things every single season of how they don't go the way that you think. LaMelo had 25 with 9 assists on 29 minutes on 69% shooting. At least some of the shots went in. Now he's probably going to... They've got 2 really, really iffy opponents coming up, and I think we might get a double rest coming. I don't know. But he's playing the season out. That's why, again, try to be very cautious. Even if you're agreeing with me or disagreeing with me, whatever it is you're doing, don't sit there and be definitive. Because there is so much room for things to maneuver. Your definitiveness about the Hornets will just be bad. Or they're a terrible franchise, the Hornets. I get that. Doesn't mean they always will be. I've had people tell me the Jazz, the worst franchise, they're useless. They're always going to be bad. Bro, they were making conference finals, conference semifinals 3 years ago. We've got to have a memory that lasts longer than 5 minutes. Marky Williams, 8-13, 2 steals and a block. And Miles Bridges stinks in this one. 26% shooting, 11-6-4. I actually think he's going to rest at least one game this week as well, so be on the lookout for that. Not much else going on here. We did get KJ Simpson playing. We got Josh Okogie returning. He's a deeper league steal streamer. He had a steal in his 16 minutes. Tijan Salan's getting 26 minutes. Deeper league, maybe a stream for Salan. Maybe. Someone left a great comment on the old... By the way, the guy that always posts about and gives me the nicknames on the show, I called him something incorrect that day. His name is VJ. So VJ, I apologize for... I knew it was a V name. I apologize. Did I call you Vivek? I hope I didn't. I think I might have. Anyway, VJ, I appreciate you dropping the nicknames in the comments. But someone I don't know if it was in these comments or it was on Twitter or something, talking about how, they've been really impressed with this draft class. Slams look really good. Okay, break up. I guess everyone's eyes don't work the same. But his minutes are jumping up, and we've got to pay attention to that because there will be some moments where you go, ooh. Speaking of being terrible but looking passable, Nick Smith, 13 points, 3 threes, no defensive stats, but that's a couple of games in a row where Smitty's just been a little bit better. And that at least puts him back into the free throws, points, and threes streaming bucket without fearing a 10% shooting night. Well, you still fear it, but maybe the fear subsides just a little bit. We all love a subsidization. Is that right? What's the right subside? Subsidization doesn't sound right, does it? I need to find that word. That's annoying me. I think the word is just subsiding. I think it's just subsiding. Anyway, that's okay. That's okay. Let's get on to the next one. What is the next game? We've got, was that only 2 down? It is only 2 down. But here's the one, the Dallas Mavericks up against the New York Knickerbockers, the campaign game, as they often call it. I believe it's a revenge game for campaign up against the Dallas Mavericks. Big day for revenge games today, actually. We'll start with the Mavericks side. They lose 128-113 as your final score there. There was no Anthony Davis. He was resting in his return from long-term groin injury issues. Kessler Edwards started. Najee Marshall started because PJ Washington was out after spraining his ankle, but playing through it in the last game. We'll start with Kessler Edwards because this is probably the last time we talk about him. He had 0 points in 19 minutes, and that is the final game that he can play. They will need to make a decision on the final 3 days of the season as to which one of their two-way guys they're going to convert, but now Kessler is done. So you hopefully are done with him. Klay Thompson, speaking of being done with, bro.
Get that garbage out of here.
6 points, 22 minutes, a dreadful run. If you didn't draft him in 12-team leagues, you made the absolute correct call. He is actually washed. I know it's hard when Davis is out or that Kyrie's not there and Luka was traded, but all these signs were there last year as well. Najee Marshall absolutely cooked, especially in the first half. The tough thing here is he played 11 more minutes than he did the game before. Last game he was still really good. There are numerous things here that just you got to be cautious with. 38 minutes. He came off the bench last game. He scored 38 points. He took 25 shots and shot 68%. Minutes, scoring, shooting, shot attempts, none of it is real. None of it sticks. Don't get overexcited. Should you still hold him? Of course you should. You absolutely should. But expect 10 minutes fewer, perhaps in the next game. Brandon Williams also, big game. 28 minutes, 22 points, 2 steals. But is that fake? Yeah, it is also. 64% shooting. He took 8 free throw attempts and getting AD and maybe PJ back in the next game. Makes it not that interesting. He's only got 2 games left as well on his deal. Dinwiddie wasn't at his best, but 13, 4, and 7, you still hold on to him while you don't hold Max Christie. What a shocking run this guy's having. By the way, I remember fighting. I love fighting with people in their fan bases. One thing I've noticed, the more I do this job as well, is that I attempt to be neutral. I think I am because I honestly I don't have a favorite team. So I try to be neutral, but often you'll get the outrageous or the very passionate responses from somebody about a specific player, and it's always a fan of either that team or something very closely related. So always watch where that information is coming from so you know whether you need to divide it in half. Someone said, man, what is Nico doing? This dickhead trades away Doncic, and then he trades away Quentin Grimes. And someone's like, we don't need Grimes anymore, mate. We've got Max Christie. Although they don't need him. Why would they do that? They've got Christie. He's way better. And you look, Lakers picture avatar. Yeah, okay. All right. Cool. But, they could have had Quentin Grimes there, but they decided to get 3 games of 20 minutes out of Caleb Martin. As for Christie, we're not holding on to him, I'm guessing. Kai Jones, by the way, again, sometimes I just don't get things that happen. Like, why did Jones play more minutes when Davis was there, but sticks at 24 in games that Davis is out? That seems to make very little sense. 9 and 8 with a steal and a block. For Kai, he did have 4 fouls, so that's an issue. But again, it's been a consistent pattern that in the games where AD is out, he plays less. And he picked up 3 fouls very early at the start of the third quarter. And of course, Jason Kidd fouled him out. Shout out to J Kidd. J Kidd, why did it sound so weird the way I said that? Anyway, that's okay. Shout out to Tony Braxton. Let's get into the next side of this game, or the other side of this game, maybe more accurately. It is your New York Knickerbockers as they get the win without their first and second string point guards. Juice McBride and Jalen Brunson both out. They rolled with the same starting lineup. So let's talk Campaign, who I thought was in position to have a really good game, and he was. He just didn't. He took 3 shots in 30 minutes. That's Mitchell Robinson's music. What are we doing? I will say this. It's not a complete disaster because he got 5 assists and he got 2 steals. Yeah, you want more, obviously. Hit a shot, maybe hit more than one, do something. But the idea here is the back-to-back and the opportunity. The process won't always work. But is the process correct? Yes. If you look at his stream assists, Tyler Kolek is racking them up in limited minutes. 9 assists in 19 minutes. We're not doing anything more than, hey, I really need assists, and it needs McBride out. But that's, I think, 17 in 2 games. Speaking of assists, big double-doubles, or triple-doubles, actually, from Karl Anthony Towns and Josh the Hitman Hart. 16, 12, and 11 for Hart, and 26, 12, and 11 for Towns. Both players with 12 rebounds and 11 assists. You don't really see that very often. And absolutely elite shooting. But what a game, what a time in our lives where OG Anunoby is taking 24 shot attempts. 63% shooting from OG. He's had an absolute roller coaster season as well. Mikal Bridges didn't do very much there, 21 points with not a lot else. And we got 19 or 20 minutes actually from Precious Achiuwa. The Big Sneeze had 2 steals and a block with 11 points, but I don't care. Mitchell Robinson didn't play. Robinson will come back. Achiuwa will play 7 minutes, and we can all move on with our lives onto the next drama that involves us or encapsulates our thoughts and minds and hearts and energies. The Miami Heat 112, the Golden State Warriors 86. Jesus, that's a smacking. That is an old-fashioned smacking from the Heat. We thought there was a risk, and I thought I was going to be really, really in trouble because I was like, hey, if Steph Curry, if this is your final week, I'm fairly sure Steph's not playing on Tuesday, so if you needed to drop him, I think that wouldn't be a bad move. Then they're all talking it up. Oh, Steph's got to play. Look at him out there. He's going to play. I went, oh my God, is he actually going to play 3 games? Am I going to actually look that bad? No, I didn't, thankfully. I want Steph to play, but I also thought from everything that had been said, it seemed pretty obvious he wasn't until they just flipped and reversed on us. And after getting your PTSD from the Sabonis thing, or the Jaren Jackson thing, or even Anthony Davis returning, I was a little worried. But Steph didn't play. But instead of starting Quinton Post, we went with Gary Payton. The doctor didn't play a huge amount. He played 20 minutes. But one of the things we talked about with Gary is that if you're looking for a weird field goal percentage stream out of a guard, this is where you get it. 100% shooting. Cool. 4 points, 7 rebounds, 2 steals. That sort of did the job. But otherwise, what else are we doing here? What else are we doing? That's not very good. The other numbers are pretty bad. Moses Moody had 7 points in 25 minutes. They only have 2 more games this week. If you wanted to drop Moses Moody, you should do it. 7 points in 23% on 23% shooting. John Kuminga, 15, 2, and 2. Is it a bad game? No. I mean, actually, you know what? No, it is actually. It's a bad game. We get, and I'm sometimes guilty of this as well, we get fooled by, 15's a number with 2 digits in it. That looks pretty big. That must be good. It's actually still below average. And you have 1 3 and 2 rebounds and 2 assists. And the 2 steals are good, but bad field goals and bad free throws. And now they play just 2 more games this week in the remaining 5 days. We can do better. Jimmy Butler revenge game. It must be huge. He hated the organization all year. He quiet quit on them. He stopped taking shots. He got fined. He hated Pat Riley. He fought with Eric Spoelstra. He wanted out. He needed to prove to them that he deserved the max contract. Every ingredient was there back in his own home arena. Everyone would have loaded up, I'm sure, because it's an infallible theory, on overs on his point props and chucked him into DFS. And he had 11 points on 42% shooting, 6 rebounds and 2 assists. Cool. Brandon Podziemski had 14, 3, and 4 with 2 steals and 2 threes. Him and Jimmy and Draymond are probably the 3 guys I would consider holding for the rest of this week. But the rest of their schedule's not good, clearly. And other guys, not sure we need to worry about that much, like Heald or Post or Moody or Kuminga. And even Guy Santos Alhelpa had 13 points with 3 threes, but I think we can largely just ignore that one. Why don't we go on to the Miami side of this game? That was be a pretty good idea, I think. Because you'll be shocked to know that Eric Spoelstra made another change to the starting lineup, another random one. Duncan Robinson was out with a back issue, so it was Alec Burks who started and played 24 minutes, 17 points with 5 threes. That's cool and all, but he shot 75%. It took a random scenario for Robinson to be out to get there, and I don't care. I just don't care. Also, shout out to DMP CD legend Terry Rozier. What a fall off that man's had. Jaime Jaquez is also out of the rotation. He played 4 garbage time minutes, again bringing up a great point that every single year you are going to hear this through the NBA draft. These NBA teams, they're just chasing potential. There are ready-made NBA ready players, seniors in the draft that everyone just skips over. Jaime Jaquez Jr., how do we let him go? How do teams pass on Dalton Connect? I mean, it's pretty obvious why, I think. Because they're bad. They're rotation level guys, maybe-ish. Maybe-ish. And this will happen every single season. Every season. There's going to be there's multiple players like this every year. Remember it. Hero, 20 and 7 assists is a pretty good game. Bam Adebayo, 27 and 8 with a steal and a block. And Wiggins, did he also have a revenge game? 10 points against his former team. 31% shooting. That's not elite. But to be fair to him, 5 assists, 2 steals, and 3 blocks is pretty good. It's an overall solid enough game. It doesn't look great when the game before you literally scored 42 points, but whatever. I think we've established that revenge games aren't a real thing. What I do want to talk about here is, though, and this is far from being true or confirmed or anything, but just watch this, because Superman, Khalil Ware, played 28 minutes, he had 14 and 10. That's fine. You're happy. You got him and you're happy with those numbers. But it's just the little erosion, just the way Spoelstra tends to run things. You just see, not 35 anymore, huh? 30 now. 28 now. Okay. Is he going to move away from it? Don't be shocked. Just don't be shocked. For now, we go with it. But you're going to wake up one day, you're going to be in a bed or a bathtub filled with ice, 2 slits on your side, and looking at a box score and Khalil Ware got a 0. Happened to all of us at some point. For now, we hold. Just don't count our chickens too much. By the way, Davion Mitchell continues to get starting minutes off the bench. 32 minutes, 12, 5, and 7. That's actually good enough to consider a stream. You've got to watch some of his iffiness with shooting at times. But if he's a 30-minute guy, which he won't always be, but if he's a 30-minute guy, the assists, the assists and the steals, they're all pretty useful. Let's go to the next one. The Atlanta Hawks go in to take on the Houston Rockets. And they lose 114-121. The Hawks rolled out the same starting lineup that they've been rolling out all of these games. We'll see whether that maintains for the next one, considering it didn't in the second half as, George Niang took over from Mohamed Gay. And this was just another instance of Texas being a little unkind to Gay, as he had 9 minutes for 4 points with 4 rebounds and didn't hit a shot. Didn't play at all in the second half. Gay needs probably one more person out of the rotation to be streamable for defensive stats. But I don't think you need to be hanging on to Mohamed Gay, the Night Watchman, at this point. Ricochet, why do we keep getting these minutes? Why? What is happening? He has been pretty good the last 2 to 3 months. He's shooting well, efficiency's way up, but there's not enough counting stats. 18 points, no threes, no defensive stats. He took 16 shots, but 24 minutes only. Just a stream guy. Levert had 5 points in 20 minutes. There's no real justification for rostering him. Well, the man that was a pretty good option across the weekend on the back-to-back, George Niang, had 12 points in 3 threes. And I love that I had multiple people say, man, you recommending Ricochet on the weekend back-to-back or Niang on the weekend back-to-back was great. It won me my league. And I love that. I love that for you guys. I love anything like that we get success from. But it's an awesome reminder, again, that just getting a back-to-back out of some players is such a huge W. Playing the schedule is such a massive W. Because Niang had 12 points with 3 threes, which is like, whatever, man. But if you backs that up across 2 games, you use one ad, you get 24 points and 6 threes, you're absolutely laughing. But it doesn't really do anything to move anyone's needle across one game. And that's almost the same with Ricochet as well. We also got a Cameo Terrence Mann game, and I'm going to need to see 90 in a row of those before I get excited about you, Terrence. 16 in 25 minutes. The big 3, again, pretty mid-big 3, but they are the big 3. Dyson Daniels, 19, 8, and 10, and 4 steals. Trae Young, 19, 2, and 12. And the big man himself, Onyeka Okongwu, 14 and 15. Continues to play very, very well. They've got 3 top 40 players over the last 2 weeks, Daniels, Young, and Okongwu. On to the Rockets, who really did annoy us today with a very late squash. Hello, princess. To Amen Thompson, who was dealing with ankle soreness. Okay. Pre-game, Ime Udoka had said we're going to try and spread out our rotation a little bit, work on some different ideas heading into the playoffs. Reminder, stats that happen in March are often very fake because teams are doing this. But then we got a scenario where Amen was out, so Eason started. Now, Eason, I'd say, was not very good, and I have a lot of concerns about Tari Eason long-term as a player. We love the ability to stuff the stat sheet, but this is a man that just, you don't know what you're going to get minute to minute, game to game. Inconsistencies all over the shop. The shooting's whack. Sometimes it's great. The defense is good, but then there's all these weird layup. It's just, I don't know that there is ever going to be a level of consistency to have Tari Eason as a locked in, I feel great about this player. I'm not sure. I'm getting a little concerned about where it goes. Anyway, we're still holding him for now. Last game wasn't good though. 10 and 14 here is fine-ish. 30% shooting. Bad. Jabari Smith, also pretty good. 17 and 5 with 3 threes and 2 steals. But of course, Amen was out. I don't think Amen's going to miss time with the soreness here, but you never know. Jalen Green, big numbers, 32 and 11 with 2 steals, and Van Vliet also 21, 4 and 3. But bad efficiency for Van Vliet, good efficiency for Green. Şengün did his thing, but another guy that continues to be just obviously rostered nowhere, but Steve Adams. He played 25 minutes, he had 7 rebounds. He is a rebounds and field goal percentage stream guy, even at times in 12-team leagues. And he was able to do that again for us here in this one. That will bring us to the next game. We're talking about a pretty epic beatdown sort of performance from the Memphis Grizzlies over the Utah Jazz, 140 to 103. The Grizzlies rolled out the same lineup. There was no Demetrius Morant again. So Scott Pippen had 16, 5, and 10 with a steal on 88% shooting. Now, obviously, that will not hold. But for now, we roll with Pippen until Morant comes back, and even then, I'd wait a game. Luke Kennard, the other guy that usually gets a bump, didn't do very much, 8, 3, and 6, and we actually got a stinking Santi Aldama game. I like adding him. It makes sense to add him, but 9 points in 23 minutes. I never can really seem to get onto the right spot with Aldama. He'll have a run where he's good, and I'll go, yeah, I don't buy it. Then I'll say, fine, I buy it. Then he has a stinking run. I go, see, told you. And then he'll fire back up, and I go, yeah, I don't really buy it. And it's the same stuff again, much like we're at now. I would still hold him. That one stinks. More minutes from Vince Williams. The blowout does help with 15 points for him. And Jaren had a hit in the face. He did return to sit on the bench, but no need for him to come back into the game. We also got our pretty stock standard Zach Edey beats up on bad teams game. 15 and 7, 2 threes, 2 steals. I don't think we should be looking at Edey as a 12-team league must at all. Where a lot of our interest is going to be directed is to what the hell happens with the Utah Jazz. Lauri Markkanen out again. Just, shocking luck with injuries for him this season, while Colin Sexton played just 18 minutes. They weren't in any danger of winning, so you try and figure out what they're going to do here. He had 15 points, 4 assists, and 2 steals. Walker Kessler, let's do the 3-point attempt check. 1. What? Last game, 8. This one, 1, and he hit it. But he still only had 7 points, but 9 rebounds and 2 blocks. Cool. I don't know how to judge this. It was an explosion game from Isaiah Collier. 21 points, 4 threes, and 4 assists. Still think he's more of a fringy guy. While Filipowski had 13 and 2 with 2 threes. Like, he's okay to roster, but absolutely not a must. And you couldn't have probably had a worse one than Keontae George did. 6 points on 13%. Didn't even make up for it with assists or steals. I think he's... you know what? I was going to say I think he's worth a hold. He's not. These are guys, Sexton, George, Filipowski, Collier, that you consider as streaming options when the schedule suits. But look, Markkanen and Clarkson are out again. They need to keep losing. They want to make sure the Washington slips up and wins. It's going to be messy all the way through here, like almost without question. It's going to be incredibly messy moving forward. I don't think you could. The only guy I think you can really hold here is Kessler. And look, maybe you make an argument for Filipowski. I don't think you can really hold any of these players, to be honest, because it's just there's too much of this that goes on every game. Let's do the final 2 games now. The Cavs go into Portland, start to get things back on track because there was something starting to go a little bit off for them. But they got a couple of wins in a row now against teams that they should have beaten, but that's what you need to do as a good team. There was no Donovan Mitchell dealing with the groin issue. Obviously, he's been terrible of late. What they had been doing in the past was starting Isaac Okoro, But instead in this one, they went with Slammin' Sammy Merrill. And we know that he can be a 3-point streamer. And if you decided to do that, it worked okay. 14 points in 30 minutes with 4 threes. He doesn't do anything else, but he delivered that. Garlow had 27, 5, and 8. That's Darius Garland for the uninitiated. While the Koala Evan Mobley was fantastic. 21, 12, and 4 with 4 blocks. It was also an excellent game from Ty Jerome. Now, Jerome has been struggling. He's been outside the top 200 over the last 2 weeks. He had 25 with 4 threes here. So we need to check on the other guys of that 3 Musketeers. Max Strus, 5 points in 27 minutes. Yuck. 11 points and 3 rebounds in 23 minutes for DeAndre Hunter. Also yuck. These are stream guys. They are not guys to hold on to. Simple as that. 14 and 9 for Jarrett Allen. Not his best night, but obviously not terrible. Onto the Portland side. Speaking of terrible, last time that we saw him play, it was terrible from Donovan Clingan, and a lot of people went and dropped him. I wouldn't have thought that that was necessary to do, but I understand the reaction to it. Clingan came out of this one and cooked. 32 minutes, 18 and 12, 2 threes, 3 blocks. Exactly what you wanted. He was fantastic against a double big lineup. They went smaller in the other game. There are going to be ups and downs with him for sure. I do think that he is a hold. We also got an out-of-nowhere Matisse Thybulle game. 15 points in 15 minutes with 5 threes actually, my bad, on 83% shooting. So it's safe to say he got a little lucky. He was 5 of 6 from 3. They all went in. He didn't even deliver the defensive stats that you want. Chalk it up that if you had him and you started him, absolute luck. Well done to you. You foresaw the future. Don't overreact. Also, a good game from Scoot Henderson. I'd need to see a few more of these before I dive into Sterling. He had 18, 6, and 6 and played 30 minutes, and he has not been doing that. We also got 40 minutes out of Shaden Sharp with 18 and 4, which is, again, fine. And not the best Tamani Kamara game. He did have some foul trouble. He had 13 and 4 with 3 steals. And Denny Avdia, the shots did not fall. In fact, horrific in terms of percentages. 33 from the field and 33 from the line. The 17, 10, and 6 with a steal is great. The minutes are fantastic. He is racking up big counting stats at the moment. It is always worth monitoring just the level of the efficiency and how that's impacting the numbers. Bad game, but overall the counting stats are good. And speaking of bad, 17% from Anthony Simons. That stinks. That's terrible. 7, 1, and 8 for Simons. We are still holding him, but honestly, we can start to make an argument of maybe you don't. If you're in 10 team, the man's not a top 140 player over the last 2 weeks. He's around 100th anyway. Like, we're getting to that stage where you need to start making calls. Like if he's got 2 games in a 6-day period, you just move on from Simons. But you don't have to do that for everybody. It's more for shallower formats, but that's the time of the year that we're into at the moment. We do the final game of the night where the Oklahoma City Thunder are able to get the victory over the Sacramento Kings 121-105. With the Thunder, still no Jalen Williams. So the report originally, remember, was like, it's not too serious, might be back. It's been like 2 weeks now, I think, for Jalen Williams. So it would be great if we just got a little bit of accuracy in those reports. There was no Jalen Williams. There was no Aaron Wiggins. There was no Hong Kong mattress Carson Wallace either. Also remember, this team has wrapped up their seeding. They're so far ahead that they can take care with their players. And they will continue to do that while still cooking dudes, apparently. I've realized that I've just got the wrong team up there. I've got the Kings little lineup up there. You don't need to see the Kings lineup just yet because it's no different. But what you do need to see is the Thunder changing their lineup because Chet Holmgren returned and Kenrich Williams was able to start. And that meant that Alex Caruso moved to the bench and Cason Wallace moved to the bench. Let's talk about Kenrich because that's the weird one. 11, 4, and 6. If you decided to take a plunge on him or Pig Williams, Jalen Williams, Big Williams, Vietnamese Jalen Williams, then you did okay. 11, 4, and 6 for Kenrich, or 9 and 9 with 2 threes, a steal and a block for Jalen. Jalen Williams, tall Jalen Williams, he's turning into a really good player. He's not going to be a high-level starter, but he's a solid enough backup that he's turning into something good. Not the best night from Isaiah Hartenstein, 4 and 10 with 5 assists and 2 steals, or 2 blocks, but whatever. He's been pretty good. Holmgren played 33 minutes. Lou Dort had 13 and 4. 18 and 10 for Holmgren. And it was another good game from Alex Caruso, whose minutes are rising up. Now, he was one of the biggest misses I had in draft season. I went, all right, we'll take him in round 8. He'll play 27 minutes, and he's going to put up enough scoring with 3s, assists, and steals, and he'll be good. And they just didn't play him. Now, what you are seeing is what I saw. 15 points, 2 threes, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 blocks, 63% shooting. The 63% shooting is fake. But I thought we'd get 25 at least out of him, and he'd be a top 100 guy. Huge whiff, massive mistake. But now we're seeing it. Isaiah Joe also, he's very unreliable, but he had 14 points with 4 threes in 28 minutes. He had 3 steals. It does require Williams, Wallace, and Wiggins being out. That's the 3 Ws, the World Wide Web. There they are. We need how many W's on this team, my guy? I know they're winning a lot of games. That was an unintentional pun, but Williams, Wallace, Wiggins, Williams. Bro. Okay, that's a lot of W's. And then Shea had 32, 7, and 5. Overall here, I just think we look at Caruso as maybe moving into a stream territory, but because the amount of guys that are sort of going to be in and out here as they just preserve themselves for the next 2 weeks, it's going to be hard to try and peg down exactly the way that they're going to go about it. All right, now we can go into the Sacramento side. You've already seen it. I just spoiled it. You've already seen the lineup. It was no change because Malik Monk remained out, but Domantas Sabonis did play. So you're obviously dropping 8-minute legend Jonas Valanciunas, who had 2 points and missed all 4 of his shots. You are dropping Trey Lyles, who was a DNP CD. The Sabonis thing just screwed up any stream value of those guys. What we did get in this game is Keegan Murray finally pulling the thumb out. 28 with 9 threes, 6 rebounds, 1 steal and 3 blocks. Now with Monk out, he has been playing better. I wouldn't say that he's been playing dominatingly, but we're getting a nice little run here from Keegan, and it's working out well. We also got another very good game from Keon Ellis. 37 minutes, 12 points, 4 threes, 4 assists, 4 steals, 2 blocks. It's an amazingly good game. But how many times are we going to get rug pulled on this? We know what happens, that Monk will come back, he'll play 20 minutes and be completely useless. Hold him for now, and then we see what happens. Zach LaVine continued to do not much. Another poor shooting night, 44%. He had 19, 2, and 7 with 4 threes. Not a disaster night, but it was a disaster night for 2 other players. Sabonis played 38 minutes, 8 points. He did have 12 rebounds and 8 assists, but he was 25 from the field and 50 from the line, and that stinks. While DeMar DeRozan also stinks. 10 points, a 1-1, 27%. I would say DeRozan was a significantly overdrafted player this season. I can't wait to go back and do all the recaps. What we'll do in the offseason, I'll recap my do not draft shows, my must draft shows, which of course are fully tongue-in-cheek, my sleepers and busts, and we'll go back and look at ADP and how it all compares and see what was correct and what wasn't correct with the way that we assess things back then. DeRozan, he's really struggling, and this team, they're one of the teams where I just always seem to disagree with every roster building move they make. And it makes it hard for me to feel excited about all of the things they do. Because I go, that's a yuck move. Ooh, another one. Jesus Christ, you did it again. My God, what are you doing? That's the way I feel like every time I see a transaction come through from the Kings. And we'll see whether they even make the playoffs again this season. They're just, what's the saying? Fish head rot? Yeah, maybe. Probably. Definitely. Let's take a look at the lines of the night to wrap up the show. The Monstrous, though, I guess they can hang this banner in the roof as they light the beam. Keegan Murray, 28 points with 6 rebounds, 1 steal and 3 blocks. Good game from him. The young gun of the night, he's also the waiver wire of the night. He just sticks in slightly there at 30% rostered. It's the big man Don Klingon, who had 18 points with 12 rebounds and 3 blocks, a far cry from the nonsense that we got the game before. He is still a guy we're holding at this stage. We know Rob Williams isn't coming back, and let's be fair, DeAndre Ayton isn't returning either, although that hasn't been wrapped up. Who is the guy that we just haven't heard of that we just assume is not coming back? We haven't heard anything. It's him. What about Trey Mann in Charlotte, by the way? Played 4 games, had a back injury, never returned. Never heard, never said nothing. Cool, just never come back. Shout out Mark Williams. And the dud of the night is Keontae George. What a stinker. 6 points, bad shooting, 1 rebound, 1 assist. Very, very tough to hold on to a player like that. In fact, very tough to hold on to almost any of these Jazz guys at this point in the season. I'm also very rarely called a Jazz guy, but I do rock a mean saxophone. And if you want to rock the mean saxophone over here, which again is a nice euphemism, hit the old thumb, drop a comment. Good luck with your lineups. Hit the subscribe button. That's another great way of going about things. And keep those lineups churning. Keep your roto leagues rolling to the end. We assess what you're doing with your roto leagues, by the way. How are you going to hit your games cap? Remember, there are 2 days left in the season where there are 0 games on. Actually, is there a third? No, I think there's only 2. There's only 2 days left with 0 games left. So make sure you're hitting your marks. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.